Welcome to Rappahannock Issues. I'm Tom Cohen.
And I'm David Kerr.
And we're going to be looking at topics that are of interest to our community, both regionally and to the state. Welcome to Rappahannock Issues. I'm Tom Cohen. I'm joined by co-host David Kerr.
Good evening.
And we are here to do a wrap-up of 2015 and sort of look forward to 2016 and a little bit to 2017. So, David, as you look back at 2015, what comes to mind?
Perhaps the biggest story of the year was the race in the 28th district. That's Bill Howell's seat. And he had to take on an opponent in the primary and in the general election. His primary opponent was Susan Simpson, former member of the Stafford County Board of Supervisors, and a former protege. In fact, Bill did a lot to help get her elected to the Board of Supervisors. Came out very much in Bill's favor. Any comment on that?
Well, it was interesting because the language was that it was going to be sort of replay of Brat's victory over Cantor. And it really didn't. Bill had an easy go of it. And if anybody really had a good 2015, it was Bill, not only doing very well in the primary, doing very well in the general election. The outpouring of support and adoration for him was amazing across the district. And then he did very well in keeping the legislature in Republican control and depriving the governor of getting the Senate. So it was a really good year for Delegate Howell.
It was. I think it's fair to give Candy Hilliard a little credit for holding the Democratic banner.
Yes.
She showed a very respectful manner, and ended up where you would expect in the percentages, but fought a good campaign. It still had a Republican Democratic function to it, even though the Republicans really dominated.
Right, and the Republicans pretty much dominated the elections in 2015 period. I mean, Spotsy. When you look back, there really was no major contest in any of the Pennsylvania. The only big surprise was Bill Neely losing as Commonwealth Attorney.
And that just by
a whisker.
And in Stafford, every Republican on the ballot won. Every Republican endorsed won. Right on that?
Yes, yes, sir. And you were a former school board member. It just seemed the one area of Stafford County that had a really bad year was the school system.
Oh gosh, yes. Well, you pointed out our conversation before. It was really $9 million got spent down to $8.3 million of money that got lost. I have an MBA, and I'm supposed to know something about this. I still haven't figured out how in a budget that size you lose $8.3 million, but it says something still wrong with the accounting system. I just really feel that they need to understand what went wrong, practices and procedures in place so that it can't happen and the money can't be transferred so easily without approval from way up high.
Well, and we're taping this the very last couple of days of December of 2015, and it happened. It got made public 7 months ago.
Right.
So the interesting thing is that one of the school board members, Dwayne McCosker, came forward with a forensic accountant in August, and really hasn't been moved as far as the accounting and the auditing until the latter part of December. And so that's going to bleed into 2016. What happens with this 8.3? Where did the $9 million come from? It did have an impact on the election in that, we were saying the school board had and the school system had a very bad year. Between this, Stafford High School not opening on time. Supposedly the company that was building Stafford High was supposed to pay a fine for every day it was late, and there was all talk of maybe, maybe not, and that's still up in the air. You had students being injured on the turf fields, which were supposed to be the panacea of all sports, and now there's all sorts of other articles that are coming out against turf fields. You had a redistricting, which you know as a school board member is an ugly situation.
It's never.
And they had a lawsuit. So the school board members there were three up, some really good challengers against them. And two of the board members, Trish Healy and Dwayne McCosker, really wrapped themselves around this money issue, and they had authenticity to it. Trish Healy in 2011 had found that the school system was putting money in the account as sort of a fund, and pushed forward and got passed a resolution saying they couldn't put money into that fund anymore. So her being strong on this issue was authentic. It wasn't just it's election year, what can I do? And Dwayne has made doing the budget in a more transparent and efficient way something big for him since he got on the board. So both of them used that in the election. And what they did very effectively was tie the $9 million to the eliminating of 45 positions, to tying that to classroom size to student education. And you talk to people who are in both of their districts who are going for the opponents. Many of them came back to both Trish and Dwayne because of the way they handled it.
Being upfront and addressing the right answer.
Right. The one school board member who didn't win didn't really address that issue. We have less than 3 minutes left. Big issues in Spotsy are growth and a lot of home development going down in Rappahannock.
It almost seems like you can't go wrong in proposing a large-scale development in Spotsy County. And you look at the high schools, Portland and Rappahannock, thank you. Both have had far larger freshman classes, and overall, the schools are probably going to be able to handle within just a couple of years. It's questionable whether the county is ready to address the issues that go with that.
And interestingly, both communities, all three communities, Fredericksburg, Stafford, and Spotsy, are trying to diversify their tax base. Spotsy is making a very strong effort in going for tourism with the racetrack, which is opening up in 16. They made a big play for baseball, struck out on it, but they made a big play for it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, baseball was a really hot topic for about 9 weeks in Spotsy. The issue ran really hot, and Jakubowski, the chairman of the Pennsylvania board, was for it, and Heidig, who was on the fence, ended up losing her nomination because she hadn't really called the ball which way she was going to go.
Right.
And baseball ended up drifting away. The Hagerstown Suns decided they weren't going to play anymore.
And the interesting thing, that showed a fission in the Republican Party. I mean, Spotsy is pretty strongly Republican, but you had a fission there that shows that one side trying to use the county money to diversify the tax base to bring in the baseball, the other side saying that we shouldn't use county money for such a purpose, which was that was only the real split you saw in the Republicans during the year, which is interesting. We will get to more interesting topics as we look ahead to 2016 right after this break. So come on back.